are creating a new financing division at the ministry to ensure that we stay ahead of the game. Mr. Speaker, a new and exciting opportunity is Ghana's newfound wealth in lithium and graphite, which will be extracted in line with the green minerals policy to support our energy transition. Mr. Speaker, the Minerals Income Investment Fund has acquired a 6% contributing interest in Atlantic Lithium's Ghana portfolio. This will lead us to a new negotiating posture for all future extractive industry investments. Mr. Speaker, in line with Ghana's localization policy, Atlantic Lithium will list on the Ghana Stock Exchange to further enhance and deepen local participation. Mr. Speaker, we are in a better place than we were before. The nation has been positively impacted and positioned to harness its prospects. We must move forward courageously, for as 2 Timothy 1 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but, Mr. Speaker, a spirit of courage and of love and of a sound mind, and we must press on. It is in this same vein, Mr. Speaker, of courage and power that we have forged a resilience since 2017. It's important to recall that despite, Mr. Speaker, the poly-crisis of 2019, the poly-crisis in 2020, we have together taken, Mr. Speaker, all of us, a GDP of 219 billion to 1 trillion GDP this year. A key lesson from this leap since 2017 is for us, Mr. Speaker, to eschew unfounded pessimism and nihilism. We have shown, Mr. Speaker, that it is possible. It is possible to triple, to quadruple our GDP. It is possible to create a technologically savvy environment. It is possible to be the investment hub of the region. We should therefore, Mr. Speaker, be collectively proud of ourselves and the can-do spirit of our people. We have proven that a lot more is possible if we stay the course and believe in a future of immense possibilities. To realize our common aspiration, Mr. Speaker, we must continue to speak one language. This is Ghana, a nation united in diversity, a resilient nation on the path to manifest destiny. Every opportunity to safeguard our progress must be protected by adherence to exhortations of Genesis 11:6, that if we speak one language, we can do the impossible. Mr. Speaker, we therefore present to you the Nkunim Victory Budget, a people with a manifest destiny for greatness. We are resilient and we shall prevail because, Mr. Speaker, as we have always said, the battle is indeed the Lord's. God bless our homeland Ghana and make us steadfast to build together a nation that is great and strong in unity. Mr. Speaker, so I move.
Finance Minister Kenneth Nanayao Kuntum Kununku of Oriata has just presented the very last budget of the Akufo-Addo government. In the last 7 years, we've had him present all the budgets and perhaps give us indications. But this is Nkunim budget. Victory, right?
Yes,
is Nkunim. Victory, yeah. Brilliant. And I'm still here with Winston. We'll be wrapping up this conversation. Of course, Parliament, we have our representatives there doing a very wonderful engagement with the MPs for first-hand reaction. We're also bringing a lot more reaction in the course of the day. And of course, Winston shall be here for our phone at 6 p.m. Now, it's interesting, right? Maybe I did not hear properly the things that many people were expected to say. But did he increase taxes? Did he introduce new ones? Did he do the very alarming things that many had suspected he was going to do?
Well, I think you can look at it in 2 or 3 ways, Raymond. The fact that, when it comes to the, he actually expanded the net for some of the taxes, to cover plastic, to cover plastics, to cover emissions and all of that. So that's, in that case, we actually talk about the fact that it wasn't covering these things, and so he decides to add them to it. We'll have a conversation about the impact later on. And you'll also realize that there are waivers on, sanitary parts when it comes to VAT on sanitary parts that are locally produced. It talks about the electric vehicles bit is one that you probably would ask yourself the simple question. I mean, how many Ghanaians would use that?
It was interesting, right? I remember in the United Kingdom, they had a similar, what they call it, indication of having to do this transition by 2025. In fact, Central was actually asking people not to bring certain cars into the mainstream. It was postponed, I'm told, now to 2030. The interesting element is that, people were expecting massive tax cuts, which will then push, and one of them is what's on your TV, the zero rate for VAT on locally produced sanitary parts. So he didn't remove the, tax on sanitary parts.
Yes.
He only said that if it's being locally produced, no VAT on it. And he also actually gave incentives for people to do local production, which sounded like a very interesting perspective on this one. So instead of saying, if you import it, it's free. No, I am going to ginger a certain local production of it by asking the people who are producing locally to rather get the incentive to produce more. Would that have immediate effect on what we are talking about? Because the concern has been it was unconscionable to keep this product, regardless of the source of the product, being heavily taxed so that people are not getting the opportunity to use them.
Look, I mean, you ask yourself very simple questions. So, and we need to know the levels of local production. Mm-hmm. Can they meet the demands, for instance?
As is currently the case.
As is currently the case. And what assistance are they being given to meet the demands? I've earlier made the point. So you look at the Ghana Statistical Service and the top 20 items by way of inflation, you have sanitary parts as part of it. Mm-hmm. So you ask yourself that simple question. Are they imported? A lot of them are imported because the taxes are still on them. And that's actually leading to the increase because we know how our exchange rate, how our currency depreciation has been affecting it. So I would have preferred, for instance, scrapping of the import duties totally, and import VAT and everything, so that at least we can have a lot into the country. But then
they intend to consistently introduce
local production.
Yes.
Local production, yes.
Yeah.
So you
so that there's no vacuum.
There's no vacuum. You just don't see, because yes. I mean, and so if you say, or maybe say, I want to reduce import duty, the duty, by say 80%. 80% reduction in the duty, okay? So that you would also be able to help while you still, push the local production up. But this current one, not the best for me, no.
So certainly we'll be getting a lot more reaction in the course of today and even tomorrow to this budget, whether it met the expectations of industry, whether it met the expectations of economists, and also even people who are just wanted a better lifestyle. Do we get the impression that prices will tailor down? There's a part, and I need to quote a bit of that, changing the narrative. He talked about the house has started turning around the corner. said today it is evident that we turned the corner when inflation started declining from 54.1% in December 2022 to 35.2% in October 2023. He was able to use just yesterday's own.
Yes, but he finished the preparation this morning.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Not sometimes, I mean, for debt figures and others, you use very old ones. But
yes, well, I've always told you that statistics, it depends on what the story you want to tell.
Yeah, which one suits your story.
Yes, and that's what he's decided to do.
Now, it says we turned the corner when, despite a 1.5% projected growth, the economy galloped at a remarkable pace and clocked 3.2% average in the first 2 quarters of the year. And he also mentioned the point that we turned the corner when the currency, which had undergone severe pressure over the past 2 years, depreciated by a modest 6.4% cumulative, and it shows dates from February to date, compared to 53% over the same period in 2022. The performance of the cedi is also a reflection of the fact that confidence is back, revenues have improved, and that the recovery is indeed a real one and is here to stay. In fact, he also spends time talking about companies that started going back to the job market to hire workers. I don't know where the evidence backs in there, because we have been speaking to companies, we have been speaking to the various unions, right from AGI through to the Guta groups, through to the other people in the groupings, the food and beverages, and they give a very different picture. Perhaps there is some wonderful government data that backs the companies going back to hire workers here.
Raymond, I know we'll go to Parliament shortly, but let me use something that Dr. Bawumia said in April 2022. He says, the state of the economy, the state of your economy, the reality is what you feel in your pocket. I'm sure Ghanaians can look at themselves, find out how they feel in their pockets, and that'll be the assessment of the Ghanaian economy.
There is the very last one that's become controversial. He said, we turned the corner when in record time we completed the first IMF staff review of 6 performance criteria, 3 indicative targets, and 3 structural benchmarks.
What's record time about you undergoing an IMF program? What is record time about you telling the whole world that without policy credibility, you cannot manage your economy?
That's true.
What's record time about that?
The interesting part is that we are not saying that we have completed the IMF program or we are out of it. We are saying we have completed a first review.
Yes, I mean, look, have you read the tale?
We have met their indicative conditionalities for the very first round.
Have you read the tale of 3 countries, Ghana, Sri Lanka, and Zambia?
Yeah, a very damning verdict on the Ghanaian economic performance and our performance generally as a country.
This is not the best time to be a Ghanaian.
But we gloated. We are very excited to say that this is a sign of a turnaround.
I said this is not the best time to be a Ghanaian.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, but we sure should be going to Parliament if our colleagues standing by, George Weafe and parliamentary correspondent Kwaku Asante are ready to really bring us reactions from there. And as I've been telling you, from now till even tomorrow and beyond, till the debate starts on Monday, we shall be breaking down the various segments of the budget to your very appreciation and understanding. And so far here in the studio, we've been touching briefly on the indications on revenue management and the taxes that are likely to be managed whichever way we want it, and the other points about turnaround in the economy and the very indicators that have shown turnaround in this economy, which is basically what has been said. Pretty soon we shall be handing over to the very competent hands of Elton Brobe to actually take us through the very rest of probe, right?
Yes, the pulse.
The pulse, which will be coming up in a matter of seconds. MFR power is already in my head, so it's getting me to think we'll be having probe up next. But Weston, generally, did you hear the things you wanted to hear?
I'm not sure. I didn't.
Really?
I didn't.
No, because prior to this, you wanted a lot more assurance on a definite way into the future.
Yeah, so you get, I mean, at least now you know that, when it comes to the taxes, not much. You see a lot of reliefs that don't really get down to the Ghanaian. I mean, these reliefs are things that a lot of us don't engage in. At least there's certainty on the expenditure for this year, about 226 billion, with revenues and grant at 170 billion thereabout. At least you know. But the details will be in the appendix. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. So, I mean, this is just, the finance minister reading. This is a 49-page job, but the whole budget will be about 300 to 400 pages.
And there'll be sectorial breakdowns.
And that's what I want to see.
Know each of these. Even later on, they'll give us a plan, a program-based budget.
Yes.
Which will go into every sector and MDA's allocations. So those are the things that determine the very specific programs that the various ministries will pursue. Predominantly our economic policy going into the future.
Exactly.
As to whether or not the figures support what we want to do, the very projects we want to undertake, whether or not we are going to stay within our means and be responsible in the election year coming, will all be things that we'll get to know when we get the broader, bigger budget that details everything. And that'll be interesting to analyze because I think we are all basically on the same rate now. Now, there's a question that somebody asked me when we went on the break. Is this an IMF-controlled, prepared, submitted, or influenced budget? Or it appears this is our very own home-inspired, our growth-oriented budget?
This is what it is not. It is not our own home-inspired, prepared budget. So if it is not, it is the others.
Winston Amor was with me. Earlier on, Sectepe was also with us. And many thanks to you, Jalate from Deloitte, Ghana. Many thanks also to you, the very wonderful professor who joined us from Michigan in the USA. That is Professor William Pepra, who joined us. Many thanks to you also for watching our very coverage. It continues with Elton, and the pulse is coming up after this break.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, in 2016 pledged to ensure free senior high school education for every Ghanaian child. Under the leadership of the President and the Sector Minister, Honorable Dr. Yao Osei Eruchum, the first-year enrollment has risen from 308,000 in 2016 to over 500,000 students being enrolled each year under the policy, making over 1.6 million children enrolled under the policy as of 2022. The Transformation Agenda series on education exposes you to the varied and various achievements of government in the area of
The 2023 EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is more than an exhibition. It's the gateway to your dream home. Don't miss this chance to make informed decisions about every aspect of your living space. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center from Thursday, November 23rd to Sunday, November 26th, 2023. This year, we are diving into the theme of home ownership, exploring the nuances between affordability, comfort, and luxury. We are bringing everything housing under one roof, just for you. See you there. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats. Rent to own. And sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Constructions Limited, where quality meets value. Global Lighting, your solution to quality lighting. Syntex Tank, Air Strong, Air Tough. Springfield Estates, where dreams are built. Virtual Security, complete security solution. DBS, your roof experts. Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design.
Alphabet City, the ABC of Home Sweet Home. Saint Gobain Weber, Gyproc, Proroc, Placo, Isover, making the world a better home.
Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments. The Kissington Heights, Airport City, Kumasi, by HDG Homes Limited.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, in 2016 pledged to ensure free senior high school education for every Ghanaian child. Under the leadership of the President and the Sector Minister, Honorable Dr. Yao Osei Eruchum, the first-year enrollment has risen from 308,000 in 2016 to over 500,000 students being enrolled each year under the policy, making over 1.6 million children enrolled under the policy as of 2022. The Transformation Agenda series on education exposes you to the varied and various achievements of government in the area of education, delving into the policies, interventions, and infrastructure development that has occurred under the leadership of the President. Be my guest this and every Tuesday as we bring you documentaries from across the 16 regions of Ghana on Joy News between 6:30 p.m. and 7 o'clock p.m. Transformation Agenda series on education, reimagining education for national development.
Hello, with everybody for you. I did your shake bellow. Your favorite TV game show, Step Up, is back with another amazing season. This time, we are stepping up with Syntex Tank. Step Up with Syntex Tank will see contestants answer questions of their choice and win over 6,000 Ghana Cedis cash prize weekly and other products from our sponsors. This season, viewers at home should watch out for the Syntex Tank question of the week. Be the first to answer correctly via WhatsApp or send SMS to 050-833-8888 and win incredible prizes. The person who answers most of the weekly questions correctly and fastest gets a 65-inch Samsung TV at the end of the season. Step Up with Syntex Tank, showing on Joy Prime every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Sponsored by Bell Eyes, MTN Momo, Angel Cola. Powered by Syntex Tank. Joy Prime, your ultimate experience.
Good afternoon, welcome to the pulse here on Joy News. You have been watching the presentation of the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Minister, Kenneth Oyorta. He has outlined some moves geared towards cushioning the citizenry in the 2024 budget statement reading. Key amongst them is the extension of zero-rate VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 years. There's now an import duty waiver on importation of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years. Zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles have also been extended for 2 more years. The government has also announced zero rate VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. There's also a grant exemption on the importation of agricultural machinery, equipment and inputs and medical consumables, raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry. Also a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties will also be introduced to simplify the tax administration. We have more for you. We will now cross over to Parliament because reaction has started from both sides of the House. And when we come back, we'll have an in-studio discussion on the 2024 budget. Let's go to Parliament now.
He so desired. But Mr. Speaker, this is the man, Dr. Atufos, who was a deputy. Mr. Speaker, this is the same Dr. Atufos, Deputy Majority Leader. It's just to honorable members, please. The reference to this is a man. It's an honorable colleague. So please refer to him as that, not this is a man. Mr. Speaker, the honorable minority leader is the same honorable member of parliament who was a deputy minister of finance when the economy was in its worst state. Mr. Speaker, this is the same Dr. Atufos who was a deputy finance minister who even without COVID could not, with his boss, the finance minister, and their government, implement the free SHS. This is the same Dr. Atufos. Mr. Speaker, if today this government has implemented free SHS successfully, and Mr. Speaker, today the figures bear us out. We have a transition enrollment rate of over 80% as compared to the 55% under your era. And today, because of the liberties of opposition, you are telling the Honorable Finance Minister that he has underperformed when your own administration had a worst performance at all. Let me assure you that the figures cannot be toyed with. Dr. Atuforsen, let me remind you that your government could not implement a single landing beach project. You came into this house with a loan. You chickened out and you came to do capping. This government has successfully heard the cries of the fishermen, and we have constructed 12 landing beach sites. You come from the central region. You've not been able to do that for the people of central region. And you are telling him that he has underperformed. Hey, at all. Hey, Dr. Forsen. Hey, at all. Are you saying that you as a deputy finance minister, you did better than Keno Foriata? Is that what you are saying? Mr. Speaker, it's the same NDC with its old men. They have no more card to play. They played their only joker on the scorecard. And today, you tell us that this economy is in its worst state. It was worse with all that we've experienced under COVID, with all that we've experienced on the global space. We have managed to keep the light on. We inherited doomsday under you. We inherited a situation where children could not go to secondary schools. And Mr. Speaker, we are ready for you today, tomorrow, any other day. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much indeed. Honorable members, the tone has been set. Clearly, I now have my task set out for me. And I am going to apply and enforce our rules vigorously. So when you go read Order in the House, Part 15 of the Standing Orders, I am going to apply them to the letter. I am not going to do any showdown. Honorable members, you are aware adjourn the House till Thursday. We will commence proceedings at 1 p.m. on Thursday, the 16th of November. Please, the House is accordingly adjourned.
So the House is adjourned until tomorrow at 1 p.m., but the discussions, the reactions will continue outside the Chamber of Parliament and in the studio here of Joy News. We're going to have a lot to discuss, a lot to chew, a lot to explore, a lot to digest. We've listened to 2 hours of presentation, capturing everything that we are likely to see in 2024, in the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. He describes that in Kunim, but is it really winning? You are the best judge of the situation as we have it in the country. You can join us with your comments on our social media platform. But in the studio here, I have Professor Samuel Antwi, Dean School of Graduate Studies at the UPS. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, my very own Kofi J from our data, sector. He's here to take us through the pointers as presented by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. We'll also be joined by Professor William Pepra, an economist, and Yao Apialate, Partner Financial Advisory at Deloitte. We will look at taxes because a lot of taxes came up for mention. But the Finance Minister, in summing up, took us back to the kind of economy he inherited in 2017 and what he is presenting to us in 2024. He said from a nominal GDP of 262 billion Ghana cedis in 2017 to 1 trillion in 2024, the first time according to the history of this country, invested in the future of our children under the Free SHS program, with 1.261954 million students having access to secondary education, supported the poor and vulnerable through an enhanced LEAP program by increasing the number of beneficiary households from 212 in 2017 to 350 in 2023, invested in providing one hot nutritious meal for over 3 million kids across the country. A lot more, I'm sure that in the minutes and hours to follow, we'll go through one after the other. But what are the pointers? What are the key issues that we are taking away from the budget presentation? Kofi Ajay, what do you have?
Well, so my focus will actually be on the external sector because we know that is where the unexpected shock, according to the Finance Minister, probably will come from in 2024. Domestic-wise, we can control certain things. At the external level, there are so many things that we may not be able to control, so I'll focus on that. So how are we going to stabilize the cedi in 2024? The Finance Minister says we are going to taking it from the IMF tranche that we are supposed to receive. Make sure that we gain a fiscal space of 10.5 billion. And the performance of Ghana's external sector, which usually brings the shocks, causes our currency to depreciate, will largely depend on the conclusions on negotiations with our external creditors.
And it makes the point that in the coming weeks, we're going to hear the outcome of what they've been discussing with our external creditors.
Yeah.
But let me also welcome onto the show Professor William Pepra. Professor, you are joining us via Zoom. If you can hear me, good afternoon. Welcome to the post-budget discussion here on Joy News. Professor.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Let me also welcome Yao Apialate from Deloitte. Yao, if you can hear me, good afternoon. Welcome to Joy News. This is the pause, and this is a post-budget discussion.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So let me start from in studio. Let me start Professor Samuel Antwi. Professor, you heard the Finance Minister. He described it as Nkunim budget. But is it really a winning budget?
Thank you very much. A winning budget, I'm not too sure. The country, post-COVID, has been going through a lot of difficulties, pushing us into an IMF program. And once you get to IMF, they now tell you what to do. I am sure that you've had a lot of inputs into our 2024 budget. The money they are bringing is not enough to cover our expenditure. And therefore, we need to do a lot by ourselves to keep the country running. They will give you some credibility and then push you to increase your revenue. So this year, the finance minister went to Parliament for a number of amendments in our Revenue Act, just to shore up revenues. Unfortunately, some of them didn't work. And we still have revenue shortfalls. So in Kunim budget, I'm not too sure. What we can tell Ghanaians is that we are not going to have a lot of changes in our economic structure into 2024. We are not out of the woods yet. We still have a piling debt to deal with and still working with external partners to see how we can manage our external debt. So including budget, I'm not too sure, but Ghanaians should tighten their belts and keep running on this road before it to get better over 2024.
All right, let me go on Zoom and let me also pick the initial reaction of Professor William Pepper. Prof. William Pepper, if you can hear me, what is your assessment of what you heard today from the finance minister?
So, if I look at the figures being given, it looks like the government is still on the plan of continuing their lifestyle and keeping to how they have managed the economy from day one. And so I want to use a word that the minister used when it comes to reduction of expense.
If you can just hold on for me for just 1 second.
Okay.
The minority leader, Dr. Kesel Atufosem, is addressing the media in Parliament. We can take a listen, and then when we come back, we can address the issues.
Carefully, you will see it. One, they have introduced taxes worth 11 billion Ghana cedis. And what they have done is that, the specifics is that they are introducing an environmental excise duty to cover plastic products and packaging. They have also introduced a new tax on industrial and vehicle emission tax called emission levy. They have also increased the stamp duty. Stamp duty is going up. They have also informed us that they are going to introduce a modified tax regime, which simply means is that an informal sector income tax is going to go up. Again, they have informed us that they are introducing a new VAT flat rate, where businesses, a new VAT flat rate to cover commercial properties, where businesses will be deprived from the opportunity of setting their input VAT to their output VAT. They are saying going forward is going to be only 5%. Ladies and gentlemen, the legacy of this finance minister and our vice president is there for us to see. But let me list some of the legacies that they are going to leave beside. This finance minister is leaving behind an economy that is bankrupt. All what he knows to do is to overborrow to benefit his personal businesses and his cronies. We know that he has, and he will be remembered for destroying Ghanaian businesses, particularly those businesses that has to do with his rivals. He has destroyed the Ghanaian economy and brought over our financial sector on its knees. He has tortured pensioners and sent many of them to their early graves. He gave a crude and painful haircut and destroyed many Ghanaian families. He has plunged over 8.5 million Ghanaians, which is 25% of Ghanaian population, into extreme poverty within 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, this government cannot be trusted. The MPP has messed the people of Ghana up big time. Big time. And we need to be aware of this. For the good people of Ghana, we bequeath to this government, in fact, we gave them a number of good inheritance. This is a government that had 3 active oil-producing fields. This is a government that inherited a robust revenue streams, including energy sector levies. This is a government that inherited a strong economic buffers, including sinking fund and stabilization fund. This again is a government that inherited a strong economic growth poles, including what we call the Exim Bank and Ghana Infrastructure and Investment Bank. This is a government that, regardless, inherited an impressive credit and economic rating of B+. Today, what are they leaving behind? They are leaving behind a bankrupt economy, a default, or in other words, yentua economy. They are leaving behind a haircut economy. They are leaving behind a debt-riddled economy. They are leaving behind an overloaded tax economy. They are leaving behind a hyperinflation economy. They are leaving behind a high food inflation economy. As if that is not enough, they are leaving behind a high monetary policy rate economy, an economy with high lending rate. And unfortunately, they are leaving behind an economy with high unemployment rate. They have increased misery never before in this Fourth Republic. They are leaving behind an ahochre economy, misery economy. They are leaving behind a collapsed cocoa sector economy. Unfortunately, they are leaving behind a massive and uncontrolled corruption economy. And sadly, they are leaving behind an economy that is Yamut. They are leaving behind. Fellow countrymen and women, touch wood, the minority caucus will be on the side of the people of Ghana and businesses. As far as this budget is concerned, this is our solemn pledge to the people of Ghana, and we'll do whatever it takes to be on the side of the people of Ghana and business in particular. Thank you very much.
And that's the Minority Leader, Dr. Kesiel Ato Forson, painting a rather bad picture of the kind of economy we have in the country. Paris analysis, reacting to the statement delivered by the Finance Minister, the 2024 budget, the including budget, he describes it. Now, let's still do some analysis. We'll go back to Parliament because clearly there's a lot happening regarding reactions that is greeting the 2024 budget. Professor William Pepra is still with us via Zoom. Let me still take your initial reaction to this. Perhaps you can add your reaction to the minority leader's statements, describing it as hopeless, uninspiring, and of course quite gloomy. What is your reaction to what you've heard so far from both sides?
And for me, thank you very much. For me, I think that if I look at the budget, it points to the fact that the government is still living the same lifestyle. Based on the figures being presented, we've seen that they projected increases in both revenue and also in expenditure line items. One major expenditure line item that we were expecting it to reduce, which has gone up, which I'm a little bit, I may not be surprised because this is election year, is the CAPEX, capital expenditure line item. It went up by 40.6% if you compare what they have in the budget and compare it to the revised budget of last year.
But if you check, they also say that this projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure.
I mean, so that's where it comes to. So you have to pay attention to the values, the monetary values, because these are numbers. And when you deal with ratios, you present the one that you think that will help you. So I'm just going to mention the figures. So revised CAPEX for 2023 was 20.4 billion. This budget is presenting 28.7 billion. So we have been talking about government having a way to reduce their expenditure, and we have not seen it. I'm going to use a word that was used by the finance minister. When it comes to expenditure, he said they have slowed expenditure. He didn't use the word reduced. So slowed expenditure is different from using the word reduced. So basically, it gives an indication that they will still want to go on the line that they keep normal expenditure plans as they have it. What I'm seeing from the figures is that probably the deficit of the 50.1 billion may be adjusted by the deferment of interest payments, one from the external creditors. You know, Ghana has frozen payment of interest rate to external creditors.
Yes.
So the government may have some room. And then the government may also decide to delay or hold some payment when it comes to grants to government units and maybe on goods and services. But major line items have been increased. And it gives an indication that, the government is still going to go on the line of spending. And that is why, though they may call it Nkunim budget, but as you go on the line of Nkunim, you have to be very careful. You don't put the life of people at risk.
So how do you describe it? How do you describe this? Is government painting the picture of we are in difficult times but failing to cut on expenditure?
Yes, simply put. So we were, all of us, all panel members, what everybody have been saying is government may approve with a line of reducing expenditure, but the budget does not show that line of reducing expenditure. You see, all expenditure line items, they have been increased ranging between 20% to a maximum of 40%. So it doesn't give us hope. When it comes to revenue, revenue went up based on budget by 30%. So you increase your revenue by 30%, but your expenditures are going up by averagely 35%. You have a problem. At least a break-even point would have helped us to know that yes, we want the budget should be in Nkunim budget, but it's also making sure that it addresses major challenges. You may look at the budget very carefully.
If I may come, do you perhaps sense the fact that probably we are entering into an election year, government must be seen to be delivering on promises? Perhaps that may explain the reason why expenditure is still high, despite concerns raised by a lot of people that if you want to carry us along, if you want all of us to share in the burden, you must show that you are cutting down on expenditure. For what you are analyzing, it doesn't seem like government has listened to those concerns and is going ahead with whatever they want to do in 2024.
Yeah, that's all. So I'm sure because of the coming year elections, government may want to keep that trajectory of spending and to I don't know, on capital projects. To me, that is the one which is catching my attention, and I may understand why, because there are some projects that must be completed. Agenda 111, which probably government has failed. It was not even mentioned in the budget at all. Maybe we need to see the details to find out whether what figures is the government putting in terms of monetary values for Agenda 111, so that we'll be able to justify the 28.7 billion. That is very, very important.
But what's the implications of this? The implications of this, if you want to go on this spending spree?
So the implication is that the government is going to borrow more. And he mentioned it that they are only going to borrow using short-term instruments, treasury markets. So even though we have stopped, we don't have money or we don't have the opportunity to borrow from external creditors, we are going to increase our interest rate burden. And once you borrow more to spend, it will be very difficult to fight the inflation process that we want to bring it to single digit. So I'm sure these are the major factors. And once inflation goes up, it hits my pockets. If I'm in Ghana, it will hit everybody's pocket. So we were expecting the government, slow down the rate of your expenditure patterns, and it will be able to bring down inflation. If not, inflation will not go down as we are expecting.
Absolutely. We'll look at the other issues that you have tabled on the floor for us to discuss. But let me also bring in your other partner, Yao Appiah-Lartey. He's a financial advisor with Deloitte. Mr. Lartey, good afternoon once again. And as financial advisor, if you were consulted to advise on the 2024 budget and what we are being told now, do you think that it falls within what I want to describe as proper advice?
Okay, so thank you very much. I think largely, if you look at the skeletal framework or the broad framework of this budget, it is not significantly different from similar budget we've seen under IMF program. So the focus is on reducing expenditure in some form and also managing some costs that we've seen in the past. And what is also particularly novel in this budget is the support or some incentives that are being provided for specific sectors and also specific initiatives, what we call the green economy. So I'll look at it broadly. I think previous discussions have been around the expenditure patterns that we've seen. For me, what pushes us to the challenges that we've had in the last 2 to 3 years have been the fact that our expenditure have been significantly focused on recurrent expenditure. So we spent less on capital expenditure, and as a result of that, our debt to GDP ratio keeps increasing without the supporting evidence of what we are using the debt for. So in my view, if there is significant increase in capital expenditure, then you will help manage your GDP, because if you spend on capex, the value of your GDP increases. And if the value of your GDP increases, your debt to GDP ratio reduces. So you have countries where they have very high debt to GDP ratio, but they are not in the troubles or the challenges that we found ourselves, because they spent a lot on capital items that is supporting their industrial sector, supporting infrastructure and capital projects in the country. When you support infrastructure and capital projects, what it means is that you are increasing productivity. And when you increase productivity, your revenue base increases over time. So I think this is something that I would think it's commendable. The other thing is what I mentioned briefly as specific tax initiatives or tax incentives to support specific sectors. So one of them is what I call the green economy. So if you look at the green economy, I've made arguments in the past about us hearing about electric vehicles and not putting any policy in place. So I think this is something that should be welcome, that we are putting the right measures in place to support green vehicles or electric vehicles. That's where the world is moving to. So where we are using fossil fuel, burning and seeing all the smoke on the streets, very soon in the next couple of years, in other developments, you not see those cars.
Yes.
So we have...
Mr. Lartey, if we can stay a little longer on the matter of the green economy and of course the electric vehicle agenda. Remember that UK has started it. In fact, they gave themselves a deadline of 2025 to move, and now they had to amend the deadline to somewhere around 2030. And some of the players in the industry were not happy because they had invested so much money in it. Now, the recommendation that forced the government to now amend the deadline date was that the UK's level of electricity consumption, if you look at it carefully, if we should bring in the electric cars, to become a major feature, it was not going to be sustainable because they were not going to have the kind of power needed to have people roll this out. Are we really ready in Ghana when even advanced countries have staggered the way they want to progress on this tangent?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good observation. It is not something that will happen overnight. It's a progressive policy that we have to embrace because that is where the world economy is moving to. So today we are talking about energy transition. So you wouldn't expect anybody to develop, let's say, coal power plants in Ghana. It's something that maybe in the next 10 years, it will be fading out. So then you rather support renewable energy development. So if you are supporting importation or manufacturing of electric vehicles, I think it's a very good initiative and we support it. Because in the next few years, the manufacturers of vehicles that are using the fuel that you're on the diesel that you're using, some of those companies will close down or would have stopped producing the vehicles that we are importing today. So we should prepare the economy for it. And so creating the policy and the right economic environment really helps. Because we are waiving import duties on imported electric vehicles. We are also waiving import duties on completely knocked down electric vehicles. And so for me, it's a good initiative and it's something that we should welcome. The second part that I think also is something that we will probably want to welcome is on the part of what I call domestication, supporting domestic development. So the first I'll say here is a Stand Zero rated VAT on locally manufactured African prints. I tell you, a lot of manufacturers of African prints or Ghanaian prints are complaining a lot because we are importing cheaper products from Asian countries. The Chinese products and all these products are in the market. And it is more expensive to manufacture than to import. When you create an economy like that, it will be very difficult for anybody to set up a textile manufacturing company in Ghana here.
So therefore, I guess you welcome the tax reforms in this sector.
Yes, repeat that.
So I was asking that based on what you are saying, that you welcome the tax reform that has taken place in this sector.
The tax reform, and I think added to that, the next domestication agenda is locally assembled vehicles. Sometimes if you walk out to ask the price of any of the vehicles that have been assembled in Ghana, you would rather go and import one of the home use vehicles than buy any of the locally assembled vehicles because they are more expensive. So this is an initiative that will help reduce the cost and the price, and ultimately the price of the vehicles that are assembled in Ghana. And of course, if we are assembling vehicles in Ghana, we are creating jobs. We are creating business that will pay taxes to government. So that's a way that in the long term, you will have the benefits. And also VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. Sanitary pad for the average school girl is so expensive. When we celebrated International Day of the Girl Child, you realize that some girls even stay out of school for a whole week because they can't afford sanitary pad of 20 cedis. If we take off the taxes from these, that 20 cedis reduced to 10 cedis. That's analysis that we did. So there is something that should be welcome. I think over and above that, we have the concern that were raised by businesses. We didn't see a lot of them being implemented. So for instance, some of the taxes that we were expecting to be abolished or taken off, they were not taken off. Some taxes that have got sunset clauses that we're expecting that by this time, they shouldn't be existing as part of our tax laws or fiscal policy initiative. We're expecting those to be abolished or removed, but they are still there. And that's a challenge for the business and most of the clients that we advise.
Very much, Olate. Of course, there are other areas that I would like to explore, but since you are on the issue of the taxes, let me again bring in Professor Samuel Antwi. So let me run through the 2024 budget provision on the taxes. In fact, before the presentation, we had fears that government was going to introduce more taxes. Now I've been told that government is seeking to raise additional 12 billion Ghana. So where is that going to come from? And how do we reconcile with the holidays that government is giving some businesses? So for example, government is extending zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 years, waive import duties on import of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years, waive import duties on semi-knockdown and completely knock down electric vehicle imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana, extend zero rate on VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 years, grant import duty waiver for raw materials for local manufacturers of sanitary pads, grant exemption on the importation of agricultural machinery, and of course, a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace 15% standard rate on all commercial properties that will be introduced to simplify administration. So, Prof, this is what government is seeking to do. Government said that it listened to the concerns of industry and players in the sector and came up with this. In the same breath, we are looking at, moving up our tax to GDP. How do you reconcile the two?
So when you look at the sub-region, and it comes to tax revenue, Ghana is not doing well at all. Our tax to GDP is very low, and government is expected to extend the tax base so that more people can be roped into the tax nets, that they will pay taxes and they will get more revenue. In doing that, government has to be careful not to shrink the industry sector. If you look at the review of 2023, industry shrinked in terms of sector by sector basis. Industry didn't do well at all. Service agri did well, a little bit, marginally, but industry didn't do well. The reason why industry didn't do well is that industry is overtaxed. They pay the company taxes, they pay the growth and sustainability levy. So most of the tax reforms we brought early into 2023 hugely affected companies. And therefore, they were unable to expand. So whilst we are trying to look out for more revenue to take care of the country, we have to be careful that we don't break down the growth of industry. I agree with Yao that there are certain areas government need to look at to cushion them if we want industry to be competitive. I'm also happy about the locally manufactured fabrics. In fact, most of these companies are going down. If somebody gets a contract from a company, the first way the person will look at is to get an air ticket and fly to China. By the time the person go and come, cheap materials, they will sell, make a lot of profit. So the business the local companies could get, expand, employ more people, will not happen. So it's important whilst looking for more revenue, as dictated by the IMF program, we also need to look at local industry growth.
And that is where I want to come with this, concern. I mean, for example, those who are into the production of sanitary pads in the country, the argument for them is that if you are giving tax incentives for those who are importing, because the claim is that it's so expensive for the market, people are unable to buy. So why don't you remove the taxes? The other argument is that if the tax is removed, then companies that have been set up in Ghana and producing sanitary pad will have difficulties competing. And that may lead to unemployment and closure of these factories. So, I mean, it looks like whichever way you look at it, there are two sides to every issue. In the issue of the sanitary pad, you have thousands of people whose jobs may be at risk because of the removal of the taxes or this importation. So, are we going or we are coming? Where exactly does that leave, the local industry?
You have competing interests. Now, the consumer says that I'm unable to buy a sanitary pad. It's a right, whether locally manufactured or imported. So I'm sure the route government has taken is to remove the taxes on all of them. Now, a progressive government will find a way to support the local industry.
The budget doesn't say this.
The budget doesn't say that, which they should have done. Because when you create that open space for everybody, the local industry will suffer. So whilst you do that to cushion the consumer, because the local industry is not enough to produce for the demand. So definitely we need to bring some from outside. And that's why we put the taxes on it. Our mothers and our sisters are complaining that is it a sin to come to this world as a female? So they've listened to that argument. Whilst trying to remove the taxes on it, we should have had in this budget, how are we going to support the local industry so that they will be able to keep running their businesses?
What do you suggest? Since this budget is going to be a subject of debate on the floor, the content may change depending on the resolutions MPs may come up with. What do you suggest in addressing this matter?
Yes, so I'm sure in this budget, there are areas where government wants to support, i.e., new businesses coming up from the side of the youth and all of that. Parliamentarians can move that, look, we want our local companies to also grow. Can government get something for them in this budget? Probably some interest-free loan to run for a number of years so that they can even expand and compete, and some other incentives for the same industry. And this time, they will not push whatever it is to the consumer, but the consumer will enjoy the benefits government has given to those companies. These are areas parliamentarians can look at in debating the budget on the floor of the House.
Right. Let me bring in Professor William Pepra. I mean, another issue that got my attention, Professor Pepra, if you can hear me, is this pronouncement by the finance minister. He says that to prevent the accumulation of new arrears, government has put in place the following measures to enhance commitment controls and prevent the accumulation of arrears: alignment of quarterly budget allotment with cash flow forecast, and tighten the use of allotment as a control on the gift mix rather than the budget starting for the 2024 budget. MMDAs will be required to revise their cash plans on a quarterly basis to reflect the allotment received over the years and remaining requirement. The cash plan model on Oracle Hiram will be configured by December this year after completing all stakeholders' engagement in line with the system functionalities which will be deployed to the various MMDAs. They will be trained on how to use the system to enable them to update their cash plans quarterly. This will ensure that MMDAs are able to revise their cash plans within the windows provided. Is this the best way to go in ensuring that MMDAs do not get themselves into a situation where it then add on to the national debt stock?
It's a control mechanism.
Yes.
One, we are using the digital agenda. And then two, it gives the finance minister or the finance ministry a picture of the liabilities positions of all the MMDAs and district assemblies. It also helps to help the finance minister or whoever is in finance department to be able to plan. You know what is happening across the country. If you look at it very well, they are tying this one in line with all investment projects going on around the country, so that they'll be able to determine at any point in time the liabilities that are due or that will be due, and it will help the finance minister to plan their cash flow. This is specifically for cash flow management, and it was something that was missing, and to be able to have this particular system, it will help. It also gives a global picture, so that just on a dashboard, we can tell what is happening in what particular district or MMDAs. An important feature of this system will also help us to be able to find out how the national cake is being shared among the district assemblies and MMDAs, so that if there are some competing claims, individuals can make a case and say that, you are putting more money to one district than the other. It could also help to find out, give a fair idea of how cash flows are being disbursed within the country. As it was mentioned, they will not wait for the budgets before. So every quarter, the MMDAs and these assemblies will have to work very hard and be able to adjust their cash flow positions. In the past, you notice that government is not aware, and there are some liabilities coming from these MMDs. They take on some contracts, government cannot plan for it, and it becomes a problem for government payments. So this platform, if it's being implemented and is done very well, it's going to solve a lot of problems. If the finance minister, whoever like Ken is there, he'll be able to see what is happening, have a global picture. And then he can also give a command that you didn't seek approval, or this transaction was not captured in the budget, you don't have authorization to enter into certain transactions. So it will put this assembly executives and their committees in check, so that they will not just be taking on any project. Whatever project they are doing must tie in with the government program. So that is what I see, that this is going to really help, and it will bring efficiency. The government will also be able to see contracts being awarded. So if you look at the document very well, there's a certain part that addresses procurement.
Yes.
So if you are adjusting your cash flow, it will be based on your procurement plan. If you don't have the procurement number or approval, it will be difficult for you to go and adjust also the cash flow. So it's really going to bring sanity in our cash management system, and this will really help. Let's try it and see what happens in the first 6 months. If the MMDs does not come out with issues that we don't have internet access, the system is not working, people have resistance to change.
Of course.
Yeah, so they must come in with education. He should not just roll it up in January. You must send people around to educate all the accountants, all the internal auditors who will go into the system to give approval. The chief executive must be aware that this is the new system being implemented. You cannot just go out and make promises that you are going to give money to a certain community.
According to the budget statement, they are already being trained on the application of the software. So there's
it is not the application of the software. They must train the bosses. You know, the accountant to go for the training. But if the MMDA, the chief executive officer, is not in tune or in line or have the knowledge of this is a new trend where we are going, they might come out with conflicts. So now this must also help. And this also help government that now if you look at the budget, they are giving back the right to the district assemblies, MMDAs, to go and collect the property taxes.
Yes, absolutely.
All these must also reflect. You see, when you use the word cash flow, it is not only your expenditure. You should also include your inflows. I visited, when I was in Ghana, I visited some district assemblies, and you only go and you see them writing on the board. They put a blackboard in front and they just write revenues collected. So now all these things are going to be digitized and it's going to reflect in the cash flow position. So if the system works very well, it's going to bring in some sanity, and people may have to follow and get approvals before expenditures are done.
I'm just guessing that this, in a way, addresses your concern of government not being so disciplined in expenditure. Does this, in a way, address that concern?
Yes. Now we have a centralized system that we are all going to follow, and I'm sure, I don't know who and what. If I'm in Parliament, probably they may also ask for a certain law that will allow them to also have access to the dashboard. All the MPs are part of the district assemblies committees.
Right.
They must have access to the dashboard so that they know how the monies are being spent, and if there are certain issues, and they cannot come and say that, oh, we were not aware, we didn't know the procurement process. All these issues will be addressed. So that dashboard, I mean, should be made even openly to people to know. If you come to the US, I mean, if you want to know government finances, there you just type, you see you don't see the details, but you see the summaries. Coming in, money going out, something like that on the dashboard, which Oracle, as they are using, is very robust enough to give that support. Then the last thing is that they must also be careful with cyber fraud issues, because this is a software that will be open to a lot of users. So the government may have to ensure that if you are rolling out a digitalization agenda, make sure your security systems are solid enough so that people will not go in and just be changed. Because someone may do something and go behind it that, oh, our system were hacked. That's why we couldn't adjust our cash flows. They come with some excuses. So all these measures must be taken into consideration during the training process, and that will help a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. William Pepper. I'll come back to you on some other issues, but I want to bring in Yao Appiah-Lartey, also a financial advisory, and for folks who are watching the pulse here on Joy News, we are digesting the 2024 budget, and of course, you are welcome with your contribution via our social media handles. Another key issue that is of concern to a lot of Ghanaians, that is putting so much pressure on our cedi vis-a-vis the dollar, is the amount of things, consumables we import into the country. Now, going through the 2024 budget year, the finance minister, as far as agric is concerned, government some few months ago launched the phase 2 of the Planting for Food and Jobs. Now, there's also a component that deals with poultry. In the budgets of 2024, government is seeking to change the course in the agriculture sector. And already the phase 2 is in session with emphasis on chain approaches and focuses on strengthening linkages between actors along eligible agricultural commodity. The budget says that the Planting for Food and Jobs has a special focus on poultry to address the heavy reliance on import. Anchor farmers, 500 outgrowers in 5 regions, Ashanti, Greater Accra, Bono East and Eastern region, will be selected to produce 65,000 metric tons of broilers in 2024. It says the significant shortfall between demand and domestic production of vegetables required urgent action, especially considering the impact of the recent supply disruption from the Sahelian region. The engagement with onion producers and importers prior to 2024 budget reviewed the importance of developing an onion index to track the production, distribution, consumption of the commodity. And millions of dollars goes into the importation of poultry products and some agricultural products. The catch here from the Ministry of Finance and from government is that under the phase 2 of the Planting for Food and Job, they are giving incentives, encouraging people to go into farming. For example, if you want to go into farm and you have access to land, government provide you all the inputs. Same way, they are also helping the poultry industry to grow and feed the country so that they lessen the pressure on the cedi against the dollar. What is your take on this, provision in the budget?
Yeah, so thank you very much. So our problem, as you know, historically has been the structure of the economy. We have been import dependent for a long time. So one of the solutions that have been proposed is initiative that will support what we call import substitution. The chicken product that we are importing, can we find a way of getting those produced in Ghana? And I know that in other countries, I traveled recently to an African country, and we were served with chicken. And I saw everybody in the room was so excited eating the chicken. Then I asked them, how different is this from the chicken that we all know? They said, this is locally produced chicken. They call it hard chicken. And I said, the same thing we have in Ghana. What we call the domestic ones taste nicer than the imported ones. So if there is something that tastes nicer, why don't we support the farmers to produce the locally manufactured poultry and poultry products? And so it's a process of supporting import substitution. And I'll give you a very practical example. So in the last couple of months, we've had problem with inflation. Our inflation has been hovering between 40 all the way to 50%. And the key driver of that inflation has been food inflation. Why is food inflation such a big issue, and why is it a key driver of inflation? It's because the cost of manufacturing or the cost of even importing agricultural product is so high. And it's high because cost of inputs are not subsidized. If you go to neighboring countries like Nigeria and all, they eat locally produced rice because there are subsidies and there are initiatives to support locally produced rice. So if you are having similar subsidies and initiatives to support locally manufactured poultry and poultry products, it's a good thing. The problem is, whilst we are supporting poultry production in Ghana, we are also reducing import duties on poultry that's imported. So it's counterproductive. I know this debate has been going on for so many years. We have to decide what we want to do. Do we want to support local farmers to produce poultry and the poultry products, or we want to import? If we want to import, then let's remove the tax and then import and eat what we are importing. But if we want to support the locally manufactured poultry and poultry products, we should put in measures that will prevent or that will make it more expensive for people to import. I think our programs and policies should not be counterproductive and should not be against each other. We should just focus on one, that we are supporting local farmers and poultry farmers. And whatever program that we are putting in place will make them more competitive than those who are importing. The second thing is that we have to have initiatives that support financing for agriculture. Apart from GESTAP, and recently I know the Development Bank of Ghana is also putting some initiatives. It is so difficult for the average farmer to get loan from a bank. Why? Because they consider that as a risky sector. So if we are providing guarantees, support to operators and farmers in the agriculture sector, all aspects of the value chain, it is not just the farmers, but after the farmer has finished, who are the aggregators? Who are the transporters? All the aspects of players in the value chain should be supported. Otherwise, the food will be produced and they'll get rotten in the farms. Because some of the initiatives that we have seen in the past, be it, let's say, the old Planting for Food and Agriculture, we supported farmers with fertilizers. But after they produced it and harvested, the product got rotten because we didn't support the value chain, the logistics, the transportation, the aggregators that were doing all of that. We didn't have initiative to support those. So we should look at agriculture as a holistic way, or we should adopt a holistic approach. So when we are supporting all the players in the value chain, otherwise what we are doing is we are supporting one aspect of it, and yet it doesn't address the problem ultimately. Agriculture products is the key driver of inflation. And so if we want to address the problem of inflation, We should support farmers to produce, and if they are producing or their products are cheaper, ultimately our inflation will go down. Inflation in the last month was reported at 35.1%, dropping from 38.2%. And the key driver of that decline in inflation was food inflation. So if you support farmers and they are producing cheaper products or their produce are cheaper, our inflation problem will be addressed somewhat.
All right. Let me bring in Professor Antwi on agriculture. And I mean, in the last few times that we've had issues with even supply of tomatoes, when there was issue with the border at Benin and Niger and all those issues, I mean, it exposed us to a lot of things. Now we are importing tomato, we are importing onions, we are importing poultry products and everything. Our cocoa sector is even struggling. Even raising the syndicated loan that has become a traditional thing this year has become very difficult. What does this tell of the seriousness we attach to the sector, which has been the mainstay for so many years?
As you have said, one of the things government should look at very well is the agri sector because of its contribution to our GDP and inflation issues. If you look at government's flagship program on planting for food and jobs, it's a total disaster. If we continue to have all these problems and we have a flagship program for it, what did we do? When the food inflation was getting to the roof, all that the agri minister could do, the former agri minister could do, is to charge some foodstuffs from the hinterlands
and then create a market at the ministry.
At the ministries. Is that how we solve problems? I think that we should be thinking outside the box. Basic thing, mechanizing agriculture. Look at the dam spillage from the Kosomo Dam. Do you know what we could use that water for in terms of mechanization of agric? Because we don't think outside the box, we just waste agric resources. Irrigation could have brought us a lot of things. But we just spill the water, let it go and carry people's things away. Then we go there and say, oh, we are going to find a loan to sort them out.
One village, one dam was supposed to address this issue in some parts of the country.
So can we identify the one village, one dam? This is what I'm saying, that as a country, we need to get serious with agriculture. Because where we have reached, if agric improves, a lot of our indicators will improve.
Do you have trust in the ability of the phase 2 of the planting for food and jobs to deliver on the concerns that you are raising?
Phase 1 could not deliver. How will phase 2 deliver? They should convince me. If you look at the amount of money we have put into planting for food and jobs, we should not be where we are. We have beautiful ideas. Implementation is always becoming a problem for this country. And whilst we are putting the resources into these programs, Ghanaians want to see the outputs. We cannot just say that, oh, we have a program for poultry. We have a program for onion. 1 year down the line, we have nothing to show. Poultry farmers have been crying year in, year out. And we are happy to reduce import duty on imported poultry products because of demand. The same problem. Meanwhile, we could support the local farmer to meet the local demand. Nigeria did it for rice, and it worked for them. In fact, because of the rice, they closed down their borders, that nobody should bring rice through the roads into their country. Nigeria is now self-sufficient in rice production.
And yet the amount of money we spend on the importation of rice, almost $1 billion.
Correct. If you check in terms of ranking, value amounts of imports, rice is at the top. And we expect that the Ghanaian farmer, what is he going to do when we don't support the person, we don't help them to mechanize agric, to feed ourselves? One day if somebody says he's not bringing his rice again, I don't know what will happen to us. Because our children refuse to eat plantain and cassava. All that they know is rice.
All right. We have 10 minutes to wrap up on this discussion, at least for today, because I know that subsequent days we'll have a lot more to chew on the 2024 budget. So let me go around, starting with you, Professor William Pepra. The government macroeconomic targets set for 2024 include overall real GDP growth of at least 2.8%, non-oil real GDP growth of at least 2.1%, NPR inflation rate of 15%, primary balance on commitment basis of a surplus of 0.5% of GDP, gross international reserve to cover not less than 3 months of import. And the government says that per the 2024 budget, total revenue and grants is projected at 176.4 billion Ghana cedis, and it's underpinned by permanent revenue measures, largely tax revenue measures, amounting to 0.9% of GDP. Are these achievable? Starting with you, William.
Yes, make my points on two main items. The first one is the real GDP growth of 2.8. It seems to be achievable. The World Bank and IMF put us at 1.2. But the one that I think that will not be achieved is the inflation rate of 15%. Yeah, the rate of what we have seen, the rate of drop in what is happening is not coming down significantly to move from 35 straight away to December 2024 to 15%. Remember, the government intends to still spend, and this is an election year. You cannot control. So in my mind, I mean, they could have pegged it around 25%, which is something that would have been realistic. But 15% is too an ambitious rate for the inflation rate.
What is your take on the target government has set for itself for 2024? I just run through the macroeconomic targets for 2024. Are these achievable? Right, so we'll bring back your on. But Prof, so these are the targets government has set for itself. The minority says that government is hoping to raise additional 12 billion, and that clearly will come from taxes. So the tax that has been set, plus the 12 billion. First, let me ask, where do you think the 12 billion may come from?
I'm sure when we get the details of the budget,
we'll understand it better.
We may understand it better. But sometimes I wonder whether we really want to improve this country. Because, of course, as Prof said, because of the election year, they need to increase the capital expenditure, or electors are going to punish them for unfulfilled promises. However, we should not use the election year to put off GA what we have been struggling to bring on the road. In fact, currently, we are not doing too well. If inflation is 30-something%, GDP is about 1.5. We are not doing too well. So if we bring all these election issues and put off GA, the growth pattern is going to affect the economy and the country moving into 2025, 2026. I think that government should not be extremely overzealous. 15% inflation when we are closing around 34% in 2023. And in 2024, once expenditure shoots up, it will affect inflation, right? Because production is not going well. What about GDP? We are around 1.5. To add 1% is no joke. And then you believe that by close of year 2024, we'll get to 2.5. I think that both targets and a number of the targets you have mentioned is too ambitious. We should tread cautiously.
Mr. Ayalate, I lost you briefly. I asked your other colleagues here on the show, as we wrap up on this matter, he is still not back on. But I'm also looking at it, Prof. Ntwi, and here the 2024 budget is projecting to total expenditure commitment is projected at 226.7 billion Ghana cedis. That's 21.6% of GDP. Now, if you should go up slightly further and look at the expected revenue, that's 176 billion Ghana. So clearly, there is some hole that must be filled.
Yes, so we always have a fiscal deficit because our economy said that we are unable to raise all the revenue by ourselves. So every year, we look for budgetary support in terms of loans. That is why it was important to check the expenditure items, especially our recurrent expenditure. If you are able to reduce your expenditure, although we will have a deficit, the deficit will not be that much. If you compare this year's deficit to 2024 deficit, 2024 deficit is higher than this year's deficit because government wants to spend more. Government pay chance for spending. Government is not putting brakes on it. So we still have that huge gap. Where are we going to get that money? We'll go and borrow. Eventually, this debt will overwhelm us. We'll come back to where we are or we have been trying to get out of. So government can, of course, parliamentarians should look at which expenditure items can they insist that this one, we can cut it and still be fine.
But actually talking about that, I mean, in the same budget, government says that they are hoping to conclude negotiations with the official creditor committee to ensure that work on eligible external funded projects, including the Kumasi Lake Road and drainage extension, reconstruction of Bechem, Techimanti, Akuma Dam, flyover on the Accra Temamoto Way, Flower Port, Temamoto Way roundabout project, major ones, Enyinem, the Konongo, the Kumasi Road, a lot, in fact, about 20 of them. These are all pending unless government is able to secure funding from its external sources. So even as you are worried about spending, government itself says that the money may not be there after all.
Yes, but if they get it, they'll go and do it because of the elections. Because electorates will not be happy if these rules are not done. So government will push to get it. Of course, what is beautiful about it is that external partners are looking at us and now realizing that if we give too much money to Ghana, they will not be able to pay. So now, that one too is another problem. If what they want to raise in terms of debt is short-term debt, you can't use short-term debt to go and build roads, etc. You need external debt. So I'm not a prophet of doom. I hope that we don't get it. So that we don't push ourselves into too much of debt. And then we come back to all these problems we found ourselves in. In fact, a lot of Ghanaians are now suffering because the poverty rate had increased. All because of debt we cannot pay. We need to see how we come out of the woods. Once we're trying to come out of the woods, we are getting to election year. A politician is now between a hard rock and
the DWC. Prof. Pepra, you have the final word on this matter.
So, as I mentioned, it's going to be very difficult for government to achieve the inflation targets. And I'm hoping that government will be more disciplined to ensure that they stay within the budget, especially as we are entering the election year. That is very critical. If government deviates from this its own plan, it's going to worsen the current situation.
All right, thank you so much for your time this afternoon on the Pulse. We have been looking at the 2024 budgets, and I'm sure that in the coming hours, days, on all our programs, we'll have more time to digest the many issues that the finance minister brought to the fore. And of course, once the parliament start the debates on the budget, we'll look at the estimates, we'll look at the nitty-gritties of what exactly is into it. This is just a 48-page document that the finance minister presented to parliament. The full details of what members of parliament will debate and then pass resolutions on them. You have been listening to Professor Samuel Entry, Dean, School of the Graduate Studies at the UPSA. He specializes in accounting and finance. Prof, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I'm sure that we'll have more time to, this is just a scratch. We'll have more time to go into the very details of the budget 2024. Also, you heard Professor William Pepra, an economist, and of course, Yao Apialate, partner financial advisor with Deloitte. This is the Pulse here on Joy News. Is brought to you by Global Communities, Digilu Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're taking a short break and then we'll be right back.
Introducing the Kensington Heights at Airport City, Kumasi, the largest modern smart city in West Africa. The Kensington Heights is your bridge to the skies, where you can access direct flights to international destinations, including the USA, UK, and Europe. Imagine a world where convenience, comfort, and investment opportunities converge seamlessly. The Kensington Heights offers an incredible opportunity for families, investors, and businesses worldwide. Enjoy spacious and beautifully designed luxury suites, executive suites, one-bedroom apartments, and 2- and 3-bedroom penthouses, complete with world-class amenities and easy access to the new Kumasi International Airport. All units are on sale now, starting at $69,950. Be a part of the future of Kumasi and reserve your property today. For more information, visit our websites www.thekensingtonheights.com or www.airportcitycom.
It's incredible! Bang on target!
Every day, people have money emergencies. Mom, I need my school fees. Emergency.
Mommy,
chop money emergency. Emergency. Catch it. I'm your rent. Emergency. Now, there's a new emergency number in town.
More money, challenge and enjoyment. At the top life we got.
Dial star 770 hash for all your money emergencies and chop life.
Dial star 770 hash for money emergencies and get easy and quick access to your money, loans, and other banking needs. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
Driving a taxi in Accra is like watching DSTV. The drama in the over me. Last time, my passenger cried in my car, sir. Hey, she be watching her papa. DSTV there, it go over you. Another one.
Magnifique. My child gets so many gifts, and that definitely includes the best of Christmas cartoons. Plus, it keeps her occupied whilst I get things done.
We watch the Premier League on Super Sports like we are in a stadium.
That was not an offside. Rashford was in an offside position, but he wasn't interfering with play. And Bruno scored.
This Christmas, dear, entertainment galore on DSTV. The content just go over you. Dial star 759 hash to reconnect or stay connected now.
And it's been given. Man can't tell where you go. Ha! Are you go?
Well, that's our show for today. It's Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 3 to 5 p.m. with another exciting edition of The Pulse, always brought to you by Digiloo Affordable.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Safe sanitation for all. Up next is LTS on Joy News. My name is Elton Brobe. Have a good evening.
The Ghanaian business community met at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel for the 6th edition of the Ghana Business Awards. And the night saw the 7 winners pick up awards for works they have done under the year of review. Joy Business News picked up the award for the Best Business and News Provider of the Year. Talking to the editor-in-chief at Joy Business, Charles Nixon, this is what he had to say.
Joy Business is very elated for being recognized for the great work we've been doing over the years. I mean, if you look at the programs we've been churning out, compelling ones, authentic news, the audience indeed have been able to obtain very insightful and very, compelling information. From the beginning of the year to date, if you look at the programming that we've been able to offer to our audience, you could talk of Joy Business Economic Forum, Joy Business Summit, Joy Business Advice, Joy Business, the news or the content we provide. These are very compelling. These are asset.
He met at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel for the 6th edition of the Ghana Business Awards. And the night saw the 7 winners pick up awards for works they have done under the year of review. Joy Business News picked up the award for the Best Business and News Provider of the Year. Talking to the editor-in-chief at Joy Business, Charles Nixon, this is what he had to say.
Joy Business is very elated for being recognized for the great work we've been doing over the years. I mean, if you look at the programs we've been churning out, compelling ones, authentic news, the audience indeed have been able to obtain very insightful and very, compelling information. From the beginning of the year to date, if you look at the programming that we've been able to offer to our audience, you could talk of Joy Business Economic Forum, Joy Business Summit, Joy Business Advisory, Joy Business Town Hall Meeting, and the news or the content we provide. These are very compelling. These are content that shapes, influence society, help us to develop as a nation. So we have, over the years, helped brands to grow. We have shaped brands. We've been able to offer them solutions through our various platforms, i.e. television, radio, and online. So if you look at what we have done, it's mind-boggling, and we'll continue to offer such, offerings to our audience going forward into the future.
The country had. I don't know, say it was your birthright. Because it had, everybody's complaining, because Alpha, nice one. Everybody they complain, even rich people. Do you know how long my bank has been trying to borrow money from me? Everybody's complaining. I will never forget a wedding I attended at Dansuman. The groom was the MC. Now, when they introduced couple first dance, now I meet the couple. People that used to give me money before, like rich men, givers. The only thing they can afford to give now is advice. Everybody's complaining. Everybody make wild. The other day in traffic. So you have to be very careful the things you buy in traffic. People are marketers for no reason now. People are just selling things. My friend bought a dog. 3 months now, the dog never back. Not be anything when you see for traffic, you go buy you. One guy tried to sell liquid rat poison for me. Liquid rat poison, liquid. I say, how do I use it? He said, pack well. I packed. He came to me. I said, how do I use liquid rat poison? He said, 2 steps. 1, you have to catch the rat. Then you go to feed the rat 2 spoons in the morning. Why? Is it my child? People make wow. And if you're not careful, someone will convince you to buy what you don't want to buy. Because everybody wants to sell. 3 weeks ago, one guy nearly convinced me to buy wheelchair. I said, bros, I don't need wheelchair now. You know, he said my leg good. He said, bros, calm down now. Nobody knows tomorrow.
Labadi Beach Hotel, Leicester Hospital, Glyco Health Insurance, and a few had these to say when they picked up their plaques.
It gives a testament of our resilience as the first 5-star hotel of Ghana, or the premier 5-star hotel. It tells a story that with dedication and with a bit of, would I say, seriousness to what you do, and when you take things personal and with deliberate effort, you go places. We being the first 5-star hotel, we have stood the test of time. We have won almost every award that is in our industry this year. We won the CIMJ Award, Hospitality Company. It gives you a story, or it tells you a story. It tells you that Labadi Beach Hotel is a force to reckon with. It tells you a story that, yes, We are proudly local and fiercely global.
Well, it means a lot to us, especially this is our second time winning this in a row. And it goes to show the kind of effort that the entire staff and management put into what we do. And having this recognition is really something that excites all of us. And it means more hard work to come from Labadi Beach Hotel. And we do appreciate this recognition from the organizers.
It's a lot of hard work, and we think things are not going the way we want. So to imagine that despite all that, what we're doing is still appreciated, then I wonder if we actually get things the way we want it to be, what the outcome would be. Lister's vision is to provide the ultimate in healthcare.
Great. It's good to be rewarded for good work. And so when your efforts are being seen, you're excited about it. And so, yes, we're excited about this, and we pray that this will push us and elevate us into the new year, 2024 and beyond.
Amanzi Medats Brew was honored as the music legend by the Ghana Business Awards.
It means that the business community is also focusing on the music business, because music is actually business. And if we try and then garner some resources and channel it into the music industry properly, I am telling you, the gains that are going to come out will be amazing. Because Ghana, and you have to understand that now we are being recognized internationally. UNESCO is engaged with us. We want to get it enlisted on the UNESCO, cultural list. So you can understand why this means a lot to me, because I am a high life artist. And this is a statement of the fact that I belong to the legendary status now, because this personifies, what I am today.
For 6 continuous years, Lateef Abubakar and the Globe Productions have made sure the award scheme comes off every year. His excitement about the award scheme is that it has whipped up the interest for companies to undertake more CSR projects.
I think that it actually motivated a lot of businesses to go the extra mile, because, for instance, our criteria for awards talks about sustainability and CSR. No matter the category you're going to file for, you must be doing something within the CSR fraternity or sustainability industry. Otherwise, you can't win a category. And it's pushed a lot of companies for them to do a lot of CSR, even though they are not competing for the CSR Company of the Year. So even if you are competing for pharmaceutical, if you're competing for banking or insurance Company of the Year, you must be able to defend some aspects of CSR as part of your criteria for selection. So for us, we've realized that it's made tremendous impact, because it forces companies to embark on CSR projects. And that alone is like a smile, a huge smile on my heart.
Tutasi viendra Uganda, Injoni wati pamoja, siku najua, jifurahishe, Injoni wati wasirai wakawakumbuka, Nagana wati kuwa katika kumbukumbu yenu. Forever, Ghana will be in your memory. Tutasi viendra Uganda, Nagana wati kuwa katika kumbukumbu yenu.
Little, like, you know, I just felt maybe it should have won the most popular, right? But then again, the record that won
which one was it?
The record that won, I think Black Sheriff won it, right?
Okay.
The record that won it also, like, you know, 100% deserved it. So at that point, there's no, you know, you can't really feel any type of way around it. I was grateful to have picked up like a few, I think 2, you know, and that's it. I just feel like work harder, bro. That's all I tell myself. Work harder and make sure that your team does the work. Like what? Because at the end of the day, if the board don't see your work, you will not be nominated. You see what I'm saying? And then you come back and say, I've done this, I've done that. Well, show working. True. You know what I'm saying? True. So for me, at the end of the day, once you put in the work, just show working and boom, we take it from there. So me, I'm grateful. Yeah. Mr. Arnold, I heard his submission. I watched it yesterday and I think it made a lot of sense. Like he said that the Grammys have a criteria, and so one of them is releasing your album in the American market, you know, because it's an American award. And then, you know, so basically we just have to learn. I guess we've not really people have not really learned or, you know, inquired how to, you know, submit whatever. Because there are a lot of, these days they include a lot of African patrons and all of that. So, and now that I said, I actually tweeted that next year, see you at the Grammys, because at the end of the day, if you make a quality product and then you market it in their market and you do you follow the criteria, you know, you stand a chance. And I believe I'm like a great artist and I'll make a great body of work. So I just think that we just have to learn how to their criteria and follow it. And then I think that because Nigerians also had that problem. I remember very well, like, so many artists had submitted or they did the tipping, the consideration thing, and then it didn't happen. And then the next year, they learned everything, and then boom, they started getting, you know, the nomination. So I think it's just us learning how we plays with them.
That's right. I was in Ghana a couple of years, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and then he came to my hotel and said, we should do something together. I said, I'm open. What do you have in store? So he sent me the song, and I liked the theme of the song. And I said, okay, let me put my twist on it. And when we did the video, he was telling me, man, the last verse I put in, you pulled me up to do that. I said, yes, because you were too much on the range. And I'm like, I'm going to challenge you a little bit to see if you can catch up. And then he did. That's what it is, because you have to try things on, you know. Being in a comfort zone is good. But if you stay too long in the comfort zone, you don't take any risk, then you repeat yourself. So I like the fact that he took the challenge on and he sounded amazing. Well, it feels like a lot of responsibility. And the validation is, you have to start with yourself. You have to validate yourself for somebody to validate you. And if you wait on somebody else to validate you, never do nothing, because you never know what people are going to say. So you got to be absolutely you 24/7.
And this is something that you feel like a lot of, I guess, the younger artists or the newer artists need to be aware of and what they need to know. Because I feel, you know, they look at validation as so significant. And when they're not receiving these validations, obviously you see them online, they'll start ranting and people are having moments and breakdowns. So would you say, you know, is it significant really for validation from other people? And I guess
validation from other people is important because we are each other's keeper and we are only one humanity. So when people realize and give you an accolade for what you do, it's always rewarding. It feels really good. But you cannot just live off those validations. Then you have no life. Because if you don't validate yourself, you don't love yourself, then you run after validation and after validation, and then and if you don't receive them, you become bitter, you become angry. It's not a life to me. I mean, as you said, I've been nominated 14 times, and I was never mad when I didn't win, because being nominated is already a huge step.
Yeah.
In the pool of so much music in the world, so many artists, you are nominated for the Grammy, you don't win the Grammy, you can just tap yourself on the back and say, yes, I'm among those people that are doing a great job.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile, smile. Is the money too small?
A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid, for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go, let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more?
Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Prepare for an exhilarating experience at the main fair of the 2023 EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center from Thursday, November 23rd to Sunday, November 26th, 2023. Doors will be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day to welcome you. This year, we are diving into the theme of home ownership, exploring the nuances between affordability, comfort, and luxury. Whether you're embarking on your home ownership journey or looking for upgrades, this fair is your destination for all things housing. Encounter a comprehensive assembly of stakeholders from Ghana's housing and construction sectors. Engage the experts across the spectrum of home creation and enhancement. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats. Rent to own. And sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Constructions Limited, where quality meets value. Global Lighting, your solution to quality lighting. Syntex Tank, Air Strong, Air Tough. Springfield Estates, where dreams are built. Virtual Security, complete security solution. DBS, your roof experts. Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design.
Alphabet City, the ABC of Home Sweet Home. Saint Gobain Weber, Gyproc, Proroc, Placo, Isover. Making the world a better home.
Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments. The Kissington Heights, Airport City, Kumasi, by HDG Homes Limited.
Hi, my name is Joel Nete, and I bring you greetings from the Old Achimota Association, of which I'm the president. I'm inviting you to Achimota Speaks, which is a platform created by the Old Achimota Association, but indeed a platform where all Ghanaians living everywhere can have a conversation around the most critical things that matter to us as a people. The next Achimota Speaks events, which holds on Thursday, the 16th of November at the British Council Hall, is under the theme Ghana, a country in crisis, defining a new economic direction. Our keynote speaker is Professor Nyako of the New York University. Professor Nyako is a distinguished economist and brings to this conversation both an international and of course locally relevant perspective. On the panel with him will be Pishigulana Alasan Andani, the former CEO of Stanbic Bank. We also have Mr. Kofi Finn of Petro Trust, and we also have Mr. Frank Edu, a former CEO of CalBank. This conversation will be moderated by Accra Belamundi, and we are poised to have a very serious conversation, not just about our past, and indeed not about our current situation as a country, but maybe even more importantly, where we need to be going into the future if we want to change our fortunes. Like I said, this is a platform that invites all Ghanaians who care about Ghana. So regardless of what school you went to, regardless of where you are in the economy, please come, let's have this conversation. It's at the British Council Hall on Thursday, the 16th of November, and it starts at 6 p.m. sharp. So please come at 5 o'clock, Come meet, come greet, come network, and let's start this conversation at 6 p.m. sharp. I look forward to seeing you there.
Bold, credible, and fearless journalism. That is what we stand for. Duty bearers and citizens know that they'll be asked the hard questions to bring out the truth. That is what we expect of us. It is this commitment to tell truth to power that sets us apart, because we will hold the feet of leadership to the heat of accountability. My name is Evans Mensah, and this is Joy News. Fearless, independent, and credible.
That we have heard, we believe in lower taxes as a government for industry, and we are working others aggressively with the GRA and to be cemented with the Standing Committee of the Mutual Prosperity Dialogue.
We've got reactions from the business community as well as a tax expert on that. And on the Joy Business Van, Dr. Kwabena Hassan is on a mission to get Ghanaian mothers patronize locally produced baby cereal. The Joy Business Van tracks how well it's doing. We've got details of these plus many more coming your way all in a moment. Please stay. Grateful for your company. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's now look at our stories. And government is hoping to spend a total of 226.7 billion cedis in 2024. This will represent 21.6% of the GDP. Speaking in Parliament during the 2024 budget presentation a while ago, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta explained that the projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditures relative to the outturn in 2022.
Mr. Speaker, total expenditure is projected at 226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022. This large decrease comes from the combination of fiscal consolidation efforts of 4.9 percentage points of GDP, reflecting an adjustment in revenue by 1.1 percentage point and primary expenditure by 3.9 percentage points of GDP.
Touching on macroeconomic targets, it said the government is now targeting an overall real GDP growth of 2.8% in 2023.
Mr. Speaker, based on the overall macroeconomic objectives and the medium-term targets,